Welcome back to another Drunk Rasslin Podcast Red Label episode. Today, this week, tonight, whatever, we're talking about, we're going to go back to SummerSlam of 1989, and I want to talk about a tag team match from that show.
Tag team match?
Yeah. I want to talk about the Brainbusters defending the WWF Tag Team Championship against the Hart Foundation on this show.
Okay. So that wasn't, well, hold on. That wasn't a title match.
It was non-title.
It was
You're
a
right.
non-title match.
You're absolutely right. So only a few days earlier, the Brainbusters had won the championships. And I think from Demolition?
Right.
I think so.
Pretty sure.
So just a few days earlier, that had happened. So the titles were not up for grabs.
Right.
So, which is my, I'm glad you reminded me of that, because like one of my main points about this match is the fact that it's a non-title match.
Yeah.
So they go out there. They have a pristine, perfect tag team match. They work heat on the anvil. How many Hart Foundation tag matches did you watch where the anvil took heat?
Yeah, not many.
No.
Not many.
Arn and Tully work heat on the anvil, and it is the best heel heat you'll see. There's just hope spot after hope spot after hope spot of the work over anvil for a few seconds, and then anvil gets away, and he breaks out, and he breaks free and does a move, and then they cut him right off. It's just great storytelling.
I thought it was real interesting while you're going into that. Man, this match had a long shine. See, I think I may have had a different experience with this match than you, because I felt like this match was mostly the Hart Foundation controlling the match and just stopping the heels at every turn. And, really taking it to and really putting a beating on.
Yes.
On Tully and Arn.
Absolutely, and that's one of the points I wanted to get to. Like, this match was, to me, it looked to me like this match was fully designed to make Bret Hart a star. Okay,
Yeah.
Because he came out of this thing looking enormous.
Yeah.
And there's times in this match where Anvil's getting the heat worked on him, and Arn and Tully almost have to give themselves moves because Anvil's just not keeping up with them.
Yeah.
That's how fast-paced it was. And, like, the entire thing, like you said, the open shine just was a match itself.
Right.
Like, it was just the Hart Foundation kicking the crap out of the Brainbusters for a good 5 to 8 minutes. And then once the Brainbusters take over, they take over on Anvil, which, again, unique. And you're thinking to yourself this entire match, because it's non-title, and they drove that point home clearly.
Yeah, well, even Jesse, who was Shivani. I was going to say Shivani and Jesse Ventura, because at one point Shivani even asks, why wouldn't they defend the titles? It's SummerSlam. This is a big event. Why wouldn't they defend the titles? And Jesse's like, well, I believe this match was signed before they were the champs.
Right. Yeah.
That's why it's not a title match.
Right.
I was like, that's interesting that they explained that.
Well, they put that point, so they bury that point in, and you just think the entire time, the way Bret looks in this match, the way the match flows, that there is no way the Brainbusters are winning this match.
Right.
And then we have a dirtbag finish, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's a great match. It's a really fun match. I'm on a big Arn and Tully kick right now.
It's a good kick to be on.
And I just, man, there's so many gems back then of those two guys, and just the stuff you took for granted back when you were younger and a fan. And
For
like
sure.
that match there is just one buried on a card with Zeus on it, like it's a non-title match, and it's just brilliant. It's a gem. It's a great match.
It's a really great match. I had noticed some things that I want to point out. One, man, Arn looked like such a regular guy.
Oh yeah.
In there with Anvil, and you really get the point. We talk a lot of times in the wrestling community, and you hear guys talk because Brett and Shawn were like the small guys who led the way, right?
Right.
And they were the guys that were put on top when Vince needed to make sure it didn't look like he was feeding all his guys steroids.
Right.
But and so they have this reputation as being like smaller guys. Then you meet them in person, and they're both huge.
Yeah.
And I really this was one of the times I really appreciated that, because there were times Bret Hart looked bigger than Arn.
Yeah.
And Arn was always the enforcer. In WCW, NWA, Arn was always the enforcer, and he was always he was not a monster. He wasn't a giant, but he was always like the guy that was going to come in and crush you and break you.
But he always worked. He always worked that way too. Where
for sure,
he worked like a. You have to take his threat seriously, but he bumps his ass off for guys.
Right.
Like and Tully had a little bit of that too, but Tully's a little bit more greasy, a little bit more underhanded, a little bit more of a shitbag when he's working, but he's still dangerous. Like you still get that to come through, and I think you like a lot of heels anymore, and I've been guilty of this a ton in my career, but they don't have that edge, that killer instinct like Arn and Tully did.
For sure.
And it's a good point, like the size thing. Like I remember, like I think in '96 or so, and I just saw Bret Hart on Raw in street clothes, and I'm like, he's enormous.
Yeah, he's
like
big.
He's huge.
Right.
Like I was like, I cannot believe. And like the same thing happened a couple years later with Stone Cold.
Yeah.
He'd be out there in his stupid black underwear and just look like a normal dude, and then you see him the next night on Raw in his dumb camo stuff, and you're like, oh, he weighs 265 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. He's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all big guys. The other thing I kind of got a feel for, the Brain Busters did not work the WWE style. You know what I mean? Like almost now I can watch that. I can watch this match and appreciate what's happening in there. Just like you can, and a lot of people who watch today can appreciate that and know how good Arn and Tully were. Man, the casual WWE fan, they were just getting their ass. They looked like jobbers. You know what I mean?
They did.
Like they came out with no music.
Yep.
I hated that they came out with no music.
Thought that was weird, and I had to check. I had to look it up because I thought that was just a thing on the network. For some reason, they didn't have the rights to the music.
Yeah.
So I was like, did they always come out? And I went and watched a couple other of their matches, and I'm like, they'd never had music.
They never had music.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, man, and Arn on his podcast has told the story how when they first went there, they went out and had a good match with some jobbers one night, and Barry Darsow came up to him and he was like, "Look, man, if you guys are supposed to work with Demolition, and if you're gonna go out there and bump for these jobbers, you're not gonna get there. You need to make yourselves stars, and go out there and crush these guys, squash these guys, so you can work with us
instead of having." Good matches with them, putting those guys over.
Yeah, and I can see it. With the Hart Foundation, they're obviously not jobbers, and you can work with the Hart Foundation. Right. But I could see it. If they went out there and worked like that with, John Smith and Kevin Gamble.
Dale Wolf.
Yeah, and
Barry Horowitz.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're probably not going to get over with the WWE crowd that's used to crunching, seeing guys crunch and bowl over these jobbers and stuff.
That's an interesting thing. Like, and we can give ourselves some homework with this Red Label, but there's a ton of matches. Like if you just type in the Brain Busters on the WWE Network, you see a bunch of matches come up that are Wrestling Challenge and Superstars, and it's all against Bill Knox and Dale Wolf and whoever, it's kind of a cool. I'd like to go and watch some of those then. Like I don't tend to go seek out jobber matches because I don't care for them at all. But it'd be neat to see them work. Those.
We should do that on one of the full podcasts. Is just no. We should do a podcast that's just like search. A search podcast, and we'll just type something into the search, Brainbusters, and then we'll just watch and order what comes up.
Oh my!
And do that for like 2 hours. That'd be a cool.
That would be fun. That's an interesting idea. We'll have to stick that in our back pocket.
Yeah,
for sure. Anything else you could think of on that match?
Oh yeah, the last thing I have about this match, I did kind of feel like it came off the rails at the end. Like they were so clean and so crisp all the way through. And then when they go into the go home, there's one spot where all 4 guys are in the ring, and it looks like somebody misses the cue or the spot, and everybody gets lost, and they just never quite get it back. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've been studying matches all 20 of those years, so I notice stuff like that more than anybody who's just watching a match. Because they cover, I don't think anybody else would have been able to tell. If you're not looking for it, you probably are not going to be able to tell. It's not like the end of this match is bad, but I did notice. I was like, what are they doing? Come on, pull it back together, guys. This is supposed to be.
I think the answer to that is Anvil, and I don't want to. I'm not trying to disparage him. I think Anvil does Anvil stuff, and then once they start working heat on him, he gets lost.
Yeah,
and especially because of the way they're doing the heat on him, because. That's not how they did that in the WWF.
Right, that's not how that worked.
So he gets a little lost. He comes apart a little bit, but then I feel like he pulled it back together when it got time to get to the hot tag. Like he got more comfortable where he was supposed to be and got it back together. And I do know what you're talking about. The finish was convoluted, I thought. I didn't notice guys getting lost necessarily, but I thought they were trying to do too much in the finish.
Yeah. It just seemed awkward. There's like a spot, they're all in there, and they all kind of, there's like a 4-man pile up, and they all go down, and then they kind of get up, and like Anvil kind of shit cans Arn, I think, and then kind of turns around, and Brett and Tully don't look like they know what they're doing. They're kind of selling close to each other. And then Anvil decides, like, well, I guess I'll go fight Arn. And, like, he gets out of the ring. And then...
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then it just... Brett and Tully do something that looks totally cover, improvise, quick, do something to me. And Brett goes and stands by the ropes waiting for Anvil to get done fighting Arn on the outside. And
so he can do his shoulder block.
Yeah, so he can do his shoulder block thing. And I was just like, what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah.
Like, nobody quite looks like we know where we're at.
I think there's a miss there, and I think it was probably
Anvil
was discombobulated a little bit. And I'm not taking anything away from him. He was always a great second in that tag team. That's one of the greatest tag teams ever.
Anvil was great at being Anvil.
He was, but he was definitely...
And there's nothing wrong. The best of us get lost sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was definitely outside of his comfort zone. He was working a style he wasn't used to. Guys were just... bouncing off of him the entire match, like he looked like $1 million.
Yeah,
he really did. Like that match is kind of a classic.
Should be.
Yeah,
it's one of those unsung classics
for sure. That's why it belongs. It's one of those belongs on the red label
for sure. And it's one of those. You say Hart Foundation versus Brainbusters to anybody who knows anything about wrestling, and you're like, oh well, that match instantly is obviously a classic. Have you ever watched that match? Probably not.
Right.
Well, maybe in '89 when you watched, the one time you watched Zeus versus Hogan.
I mean, but and the reasons that it's a classic is just it's not obvious.
Yeah.
Because Brett's not a main event guy or a singles guy for 2 more years.
Right.
Yep. Like, and you think about things now and how quickly things are adopted in wrestling, but like then 2 years was not that long, but they were building him from that point on. Like it was 3 years later that he did the SummerSlam with Bulldog at Wembley, where, that huge show. Like, so
90?
Oh, was it 90 or 92?
Was that 90?
No, it was 90. You're right. Yeah. So it was the next year.
No, it might have been 92. Ooh, we should know that.
Yeah, we should.
We should know that.
It was 92 because he dropped a Davey Boy and then he beat Flair.
And then he beat Flair.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was a couple of years before he got that singles run.
Right.
And it looked to me in this match, hey, we're out here to make Brett. And that's what the match. I can't think of one Hart Foundation match where Bret Hart takes a hot tag. I can't.
No.
Like, I'm sure they exist, but I cannot think of another one.
Well, would you want him to?
No.
I mean, he's fine, but
right.
Who comes into a Hart Foundation match and goes, hey, we want to spend the most of it working Anvil?
Exactly. Anyway,
Anyway,
it deserves
good
the red
stuff.
label. It's
Deserves
got
the
that
red
seal
label.
of approval.
If you haven't seen that match in a while, go check it out, guys. It's on SummerSlam '89. Find it on the network. That's where we watched it.
It's great. It's great. Thanks for tuning in for the red label. We appreciate you guys. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Comment too. Click the little icon with the bell to get notified of any of our videos. You can find all of our podcasts on your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Stitcher, all that stuff, man. Podbean. We're at drunkwrestling.com, our social media. We're on Facebook. Like us there. Follow us there.
Please.
And we're on Twitter at Drunk Rasslin and on Facebook at Drunk Rasslin.
Yeah, well,
Facebook.com,
Facebook is just Drunk Rasslin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can find us on all of the social media. And that's the red label. I blew it.
You did great.
Hey, cheers to you, my man. Thanks for watching the red label. We'll see you next time, booger eaters.